On today's episode of Locked on Wild, contract discussions between Marco Rossi and the Wild are hilariously far apart.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day. And we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we will talk about the latest with the Marco Rossi extension discussions. Michael Russo dropping a new episode of Worst Seats in the House. And it's an eye-opener to say the least. So we'll talk about what could potentially be causing those discussions to be as far apart as they are reported to be. We'll also take a look at a big week coming up for the Minnesota Wild, as well as some Wild prospects that are making big noise in the NCAA tournament as well. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked on Wild, and we will be back to a postcast here tonight for the game against the Dallas Stars, so make sure to tune in for that after the game is done. And we have a little pregame hit coming up for you here today as well, trying a new spin on the pregame previews. So stay tuned for that coming up later this afternoon. But joined by Alex Micheletti here today. And Alex, we're going to start with the Marco Rossi contract extension discussions because in the latest episode of Worst Seats in the House, Michael Russo dropped a nugget that Marco Rossi and the Minnesota Wild are, quote, so far apart, it's not even funny on contract negotiations so far. We know that Rossi is going to be a restricted free agent going into next season. And actually, he is still a few years away from becoming an unrestricted free agent. So the Wilds still control his rights for at least the next couple of seasons. But this is something that I have talked about here for the last few weeks. And I keep using the topic of, like, this is kind of the point of no return potentially for Bill Guerin if he gets to the point that, well, it's too much money. We're not going to be able to re-sign Rossi, so we're going to ship him out. But there's another angle to this too that I think is important to consider, because I know that people are frustrated for the most part with what has happened with this team. The Bill Guerin honeymoon is the shine's starting to wear off a little bit. But let's consider that if Rossi's agent is asking for just an astronomical number for an extension, you're not going to give him 9.5. If he's asking for that for his next deal, he's going to end up getting that from somebody else.
Yeah, they'll give his agent permission to go find a team willing to do that extension, and they'll make a trade.
And it's like, you look at the production level that Rossi has. Obviously, he has played. He's an Iron Man. He's played in every game. There was some concern that might not be the case after the slap shot that he took against the Kraken, but he bounced back and he hopped right back in the lineup. He has 20 plus goals in back-to-back seasons. He is, with 12 games left, he could get up to, 25, 26 goals, which would be a great number for a player like that. But you look at, the salaries for the players that drive play, drive offense. And Matt Boldy, for example, he got $7 million per year on his 7x7, but with some context, Boldy had 2 seasons of 30-plus goals heading into getting that extension. So there was equity, there was a history there that you can say, well, he's been a 30-goal scorer for two years. So we're paying for that. At this point, what you're paying for with Marco Rossi is a very, very good top 6 center. 20-plus goals is a cinch for him. He's going to win you a lot of faceoffs, but he's not he's not a play driver type. Like, he's a very good complementary piece. I'm not trying to discredit what he does, but he's not a driver of a line. He is somebody that can help a line create for sure, but he is not somebody that does a lot of generating offense on his own.
Yeah, 100%. And do you want to pay that much to a guy, and then you're stuck, and they're already paying a ton of money in their decor too. So that's where, money's, even though the buyouts are going to be done, now, the favor money kicks in, and, it's going to be tough, free agency wise too, if you do so it's just like the money is going to eventually run out here too. And do you have enough to do both is the question, free agency and the extension.
I know it's a buzzword, but it feels like if Rossi isn't traded, and the figure that was mentioned in the latest episode of Worst Seats in the House is it's about a 70%, at least in Russo and Joe Smith's estimation, 70% chance that he gets traded this offseason. I actually, just for curiosity's sake, because we don't know the figures. We don't know what Rossi's camp is asking for. We don't know what Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild are willing to pay. I would actually like to see this go to arbitration so we can get a little bit of a clearer picture as to what both sides are looking for. And with him being a first-time restricted free agent, similar to how things went with Kevin Fiala, it would buy you time. It would buy you a season to be able to figure this out. The Wild obviously kind of want to see, they want a little bit more of a look to make sure what they're paying for is legit.
And playoff scoring too.
And playoff scoring. Nobody is questioning Marco Rossi's work ethic, his heart.
Hardest worker, one of the hardest.
None of that is being questioned. What's being questioned is the production. And so I'll say it again. Like, I know it's kind of a buzz phrase, but I think going to arbitration would give us a good look as to how far apart they are. Because then worst case scenario is an independent arbiter rules in Rossi's favor. He gets paid a little bit more. And you have basically the entirety of the season to try to work out a new deal while also working on Kirill Kaprizov's extension. It's the outcomes, the scenarios that are most likely with this is a bridge deal, a long-term deal, or he gets moved. Those are the 3 scenarios. And I feel like it will be something that probably is regretted by moving Rossi. But then again, if he's asking for $9.5–10 million, it's just not realistic.
No, I mean, then it puts the team in a real strain, and they still don't know for sure about Kirill and the amount that extension is going to be. Is it going to be effective now because he's had this, lingering type of groin issue? Thanks, Logan Stanley. So it's that one's going to be interesting to watch for sure, to see if he's for sure in with the Wild long term.
So I'm just gonna keep repeating it. We shouldn't be afraid of the phrase arbitration because of how things played out with Kevin Fiala. I think that would offer just a very intriguing public view.
they'll look at the market and see comparables, based off his production to other players of what deals they've gotten. And it'll be you'll definitely be able to see the bit. I'm sure it's a sizable gap if it gets to that point too with the arbiter, and see if they can meet in the middle somewhere.
It'll be like the Minnesota Wild submits 3.25 and Marco Rossi's camp submits 9. It's like, okay, this is
all right.
bad. This is bad.
Yeah, that is that is a gigantic gap.
Oh, I hope it's not something like that. But when you use a phrase so far apart, it's not even funny. Not great.
Yeah, and then they're not making that up. That's for sure. They know.
Yeah.
What the
So we'll see. We'll keep you posted on that, obviously. But again, like I want to mention this point as well for all, and we've tried to avoid the trade discussions with Rossi, but they
keep popping up.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to at least mention it a little bit.
It keeps popping up. As of right now, he still has not been traded, so he won't be able to be traded until the offseason at the earliest. So we'll just keep tabs on it like we always do. We'll move on to a big week coming up for the Minnesota Wild. It was nice to see them get back on track with 3 straight wins, some offense finally coming back to the table. But there is a big week in store. We'll tell you who, and we'll tell you where and when as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I literally have a bag over on my coffee table of the honey roasted no shells. It's fun to sit on your couch and crack them open the old-fashioned way, but there's something to be said about just being able to eat right away and not having to work for it, which is why I go with the no shells variety. But whichever you choose, get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We made it through. I'm not going to call it the wilderness because I had so much fun, but winter sports season officially wrapped up, which means that there's more time to go back to a focus here on the show. So postcasts, we've got some pregame content that we'll be bringing you as well. We're just testing some things out, mainly looking for next season, but we're going to try it out here this year. So stay tuned for that coming up this afternoon as well. Alex, let's talk about the week at hand for the Minnesota Wild. They beat the Kings, the Kraken, and the Sabres by a combined 11-2, and just 2 goals allowed, some nice performances by Philip Gustafsson. I have called off the missing persons reports for a few people on the Minnesota Wild roster. Justin Brazeau even scored. So it was a nice 3-game stretch. But listen to this. At Dallas tonight, home against Vegas on Tuesday, home against Washington on Thursday, home against New Jersey on Saturday. And you talk about, like, yes, it was great to see over this past week. It was great to see, some things start to kind of come back, some signs of life from the Wilds. But if they go and just kind of look like they had previously against these types of teams, That's not what we need right now.
No, these teams coming are a lot better than who they faced this past week. So we'll see if they can repeat it. Hopefully they can. Gus has been rock solid in that. I think that has just been a huge part of the success this past week. Without the way he was playing, they lose a couple of those too, I think. Other than the Kraken game was just you saw that one coming with Philip Grubauer and the stats that he has this season, and he's been sent down to the AHL already, and he's a veteran, so that's never a good thing.
No, I'm just glad that we didn't have a repeat of the Tristan Jarry game from a couple of weeks ago, where it's like,
my goodness,
hey, you guys realize that this guy was in the AHL earlier this season and has not played an NHL game in like 2 weeks, and it's like, oh no, we're not going to challenge.
At least the Kraken don't have a Sidney Crosby, so that made a difference too.
Yeah, well. that certainly helped. But let's look at the Stars here first. Obviously, Dallas, we know the firepower that they bring to the table. They went out and they got Mikko Rantanen, but things with Rantanen they haven't gotten off to the greatest of starts. Now, Dallas still, their season has been fantastic once again. Mm-hmm. They're just a great team, but they lost back-to-back games to the Jets and the Avalanche last weekend. They beat the Ducks, the Flyers, and the Lightning, all one-score games. So they've been playing things pretty tight here lately, and it's gonna come down to, can the Wild find enough to crack Jake Oettinger, and can they capitalize on opportunities that they get out in front?
Yeah, Dallas has so much depth. That's the big thing with them is, yeah. I mean, yeah, you got and the contract that they have for Matt Duchene, they just lucked out on that. So it's incredible, and what they're doing without Heiskanen too is something else too. He's such an important player for them, and they've been going without him for a while here now. And so, yeah, you're right. The one thing the Wild can't do is allow the Stars to get on the power play, because that's where they do absolute damage, even against the best teams in the league. And with Oettinger, even in those one goal game situations, he's elite. He can shut it down with the best of them. That's for sure.
How about Sam Steele, by the way, former Wild center, playing himself into an essential role in the bottom six, getting a contract extension.
And just think, he was a first-round draft pick at one point back with Anaheim. So it's those types of players. They can hang around in the NHL for a while if they adapt to that type of roles. And now some guys, they don't like to do that, and then they end up AHL or ECHL, and then they just disappear, and you never see a retirement news story. It's just they quietly leave the game of hockey. And so good on Sam Steele. He's in a no state income tax state too, so that I'm sure he's loving that as well.
The last time I looked at Jason Robertson's numbers, they were not great. He has obviously heated up. I mean, he had 10 goals in January. So Robo is getting himself back into prime form. But looking at these other games this week, obviously the Vegas, the second night of a back-to-back against the Vegas Golden Knights, potential playoff preview, by the way. And it's a Vegas Golden Knights team that is very beatable on the road, but the Wild don't really hold the fort down at home all that much. And this is going to be another tight one, another tense one. And this is a very tricky back-to-back.
Yeah, 100%. And missing a center like Eck, that does favors against Jack Eichel. They would obviously stick Eck on Eichel all night if they could, but his chemistry with Mark Stone, it's just it's so impressive. And one guy that's just been on a tear for them lately is Tomas Hertl. What a pickup that. Remember that was out of the blue that they were able to get. San Jose's just like, here, take on Hertl for us.
We don't want him anymore.
We don't want him. We'll pay a lot of his contract for you as well too. That was something else.
31 goals, and your 30 goal scorers so far for the Golden Knights are Tomas Hertl and Pavel Dorofeyev. Those are your 2 30-goal scorers right now, just like we all expected.
Exactly, and they're missing Shea Theodore big time because he was having arguably his best season in his NHL career, and so they're kind of just hoping he's ready to go for playoff time, and they kind of patchwork it together, and having Noah Hannafin back there too was just a great move by them to get another defenseman like him, and they're making it work, and their goaltending, you never know what to expect with Adin Hill. He can be really on and just one end of the other, just really really good or just completely awful. It's not in the middle.
Yeah, there's no in between. I am not confident, but it is looking likely that Alex Ovechkin will not break the all-time goals record in Minnesota.
They're second, it looked like it, but not anymore.
Yeah, he's 7 goals away, and Washington, he would need to get a bunch here over the next couple of games to put himself in position. And actually, that means he would need 6, because the only game that the Capitals play before the Wild is Tuesday at Winnipeg. So if he's got 6 in the tank
against Hellebuck,
or maybe 4, because he could get a hat trick against the Wild. It wouldn't be the first time.
Right.
Yes. So just get 4 against the Winnipeg Jets. Yes. Sincerely, us.
And somehow Winnipeg lost to Buffalo, which makes no sense on the back end of a back-to-back after the Wild. Yeah, what a weird couple days for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, a Sabres team that the Wild did beat them 4-1, but it was a slog game. And I think the word slog further underscores just how bad Buffalo is. And I saw a lot of Sabres fans sharing that quote that Marcus Foligno had earlier in the season, saying, it can be bad. Here's like it must have been during a losing streak. He's like, for as bad as things appear to be, at least we're not in Buffalo. It's like, oh wow,
savage. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And he ended up getting the last laugh. The New Jersey Devils, to finish off the week, the Devils are 4-6 in their last 10. They're starting to fade a little bit.
If you know Frank the Tank, and if listeners, viewers out there have watched his New Jersey Devils rants, it's some of the best stuff on the internet for sure.
Turns out since the last one that he did, they have not won a game. So
and let's just say he's not the biggest Simon Nemec fan and Jacob Markstrom right now. So watch out. Or Dawson Mercer. If you're one of those 3, watch out for Frank.
Maybe Dawson Mercer will be who the Wild end up getting for Marco Rossi when he asks for 11.5, and Bill Guerin is like, I won't pay that. Funny part is that if it's like a number like that, if I hear the number, I'm going to be like, oh, I wouldn't pay that either.
Right.
So it's just it's a weird situation, but we'll comment and update on
that contract. It could turn into the like that Moneyball meme that this is Marco Rossi, blah blah blah. Problem is his agent wants 11 million a year.
This is Marco Rossi. He's one of the best players on the Minnesota Wild, and he's 5'9". The problem is his agent wants him to be paid like he's Mikko Rantanen.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
Well, sorry about that. So I would say my guesstimation on this week, I think you need to find a way to, while New Jersey is a very winnable game.
Yeah.
I think if you split the other two home games between Vegas and Washington, and like there's a scenario where you could get points in 3 or 4 of these games.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of overtime losses. I
the
think
Wild
you just
love doing that, right? They just love
Yeah.
getting to the the loser point at least.
I think you need to find a way to get points in at least 2 of the 4 this week.
Yeah. Because look at what the Blues have won 6 in a row, it's just it's insane. They looked like dead in the water, but now they're back in. It goes to show Jim Montgomery, he's just taking this average team and they're just going on a run somehow.
Yeah, he was clearly the problem in Boston.
Yeah, well, they are really regretting that move. It's completely backfired, and the Bruins they look like they have no direction. Yeah, so it could always be worse. It could always be worse. Wild fans, right?
Full tilt rebuild for Boston.
Hey, and they raised ticket prices there. So yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's gonna go over well in Boston.
Leave a comment in the comment section on how many games you think the Wild will get points in this week. Now, not necessarily win, because you can get points in this current NHL system. You can get points in games without winning. How many games of the 4 do you think the Wild will record points in? Leave your comment in the comment section, and we'll get to the responses on tomorrow's episode. We're going to finish by taking a look. The NCAA tournament bracket is out for men's hockey, and there are no shortage of Minnesota Wild prospects that are in this year's tournament. We'll take a look at the notable names to finish off today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. For instance, when I looked at my detailed breakdown of my expenditures over the last month, guess who found out that I was paying for a PlayStation Plus subscription that I literally had not used? Guilty. But what I was able to do then was to get that money going right back into my checking account as opposed to going off to something that I wasn't using. And that's just one example. There are countless others that Monarch Money has helped get money back in my pocket by just giving me a look at what my expenses are on a monthly basis. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We are your team each and every day as well. Reminder, we will do a more detailed breakdown of the game against Dallas later this afternoon. Our new pregame hits that we're going to be debuting 4 games the rest of the season. Just trying it out to see if the formula is right. So that we can use that for next season. So be on the lookout for that coming up later this afternoon. Alex, the bracket is out. The NCAA tournament men's hockey has revealed the teams that are going to be participating, and there are no shortage of Minnesota Wild prospects that will be participating this year. Now, we've got the reveal by region. We'll start with the Manchester, New Hampshire regional. Wild do not have any prospects on Boston College. No prospects in Providence College. They do have a pretty notable one at the University of Denver.
Couple of them at Denver.
2 prospects. Thank you. Zeev, Buium, and Rieger Lorentz. Now, Buium gets the headlines, but perfect to mention as well. Rieger Lorentz is no slouch himself.
No, he was phenomenal in St. Paul in this last spring. He was, he had a coming out party there and helped them win a national championship and potentially his future home at X or whatever it's going to be called by the time he turns pro.
I hope it's still the X because
it's like Camp Snoopy. It'll never, whatever it is now, it'll all forever be Camp Snoopy.
Just a small tangent. The former Gopher men's basketball coach, Richard Pitino, was talking about how his team's arena is referred to as the Pit. It was like, let's use that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's use that to call the X. I want the home stadium to be called something that opposing fans are like, oh, we got to go to the Pit.
Yes.
I want it to be something that strikes fear in opponents.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're going to like the Thunderdome, or you're going to Death Valley or something like that, where it's like, oh, I don't know if we're going to have a good, but anyway, you've got Lorentz, you've got Buium for the University of Denver. Unfortunately for Bentley University, they don't have anybody.
First timers in the tournament. Congrats to them, but no wild prospects.
Yeah, it just says none. In the Fargo, North Dakota regional, this is the one that we'll be keeping the closest eyes on. You got Western Michigan, but no wild prospects there. The University of Minnesota, the Wild have 1 prospect with the Gophers, that being Jimmy Clark, who is a sophomore for the Gophers and is a solid contributor there. He'll obviously grow into more of a role as he gets older. Nobody for the University of Massachusetts, and nobody for Minnesota State University Mankato, but we'll be keeping an eye because it's Western Michigan playing the Mavericks, and then it is the University of Minnesota playing UMass
on Thursday.
And that'll be okay. So Thursday is the opening game, and then I would assume the second game are they both Thursday?
Both Thursday. Yep.
Both Thursday. Okay.
The Mavs have the early game, if you could call it that, 4:00, which is interesting, and that one's on ESPNU, and then the later game at 7-ish is Gophers UMass so that'll be interesting. So
that'll be entertaining.
Yes.
Go Mavs, obviously.
Yes, UMass was they were upset that nobody on that team was in the top 10 for the Hobart Baker. So there was lots of Twitter wars this week from yes, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, Alex Tracy was a Hobie Baker top 10 guy. Only one of the best goalies in the country.
What are we doing here? And obviously Zeev Buium, another Hobie Baker finalist. So that's fantastic for the Wild. The Allentown, Pennsylvania regional, University of Maine. I am kind of grossed out to learn that there is another Makar on University of Maine, and he was also drafted by the Avalanche.
Yes, yeah. He transferred there from UMass. So yeah, he went from one school in Hockey East to another in Hockey East. So that's always, when that happens, coaches never like that, an interconference transfer. But what can you do? And poor Maine, they have to travel to a region where Penn State is the 4 seed, but they're hosting the regional, so it's almost like a home game for the 4th seed. So you work that hard to get a 1, and then you have the 4 seed basically, a home game
right in their backyard.
Right.
How many Makars does one team need?
Yes, you already have a cyborg on the basically Bobby Orr 2.0.
Yeah,
it's insane.
we don't need two. You just one is enough.
Yeah, it can't be terrorized for for way too long with just one. Now two.
Yeah. Well, anyway, nobody from University of Connecticut. From Quinnipiac, Nate, either Benoit or Benoit. I'm assuming Benoit.
He transferred there from he was at North Dakota and now went to Quinnipiac. So
that will be
out east.
That'll be an eye to keep on, and that'll be a name to keep an eye on for Quinnipiac, and nobody for Penn State. But going to the Toledo, Ohio regional, obviously a notable name on the Michigan State roster, Charlie Stramel, who had a really solid bounce back season after his 2 years in Wisconsin. He equaled and had more. He had one more goal and 5 more assists and 6 total points more in his 1 year at Michigan State so far than he did in his 2 years at Wisconsin.
Yeah, the Michigan State program, they kind of when Adam Nightingale took over, he reunited some of his guys that he coached at the National Development Team program, and got former line mates back together there in East Lansing, because Isaac Howard transferred from UMD to Michigan State. Charlie Stramel transferred from Wisconsin there to Michigan State, and both of those guys played together at the junior level, and so yeah, it worked out. And Stramel assisted on Isaac Howard's game-winning goal there for Michigan State to win the Big Ten Conference tournament over the weekend against Ohio State. So yeah, good for Charlie, and hope he can keep it going here. We'll see if he goes back to school or not this summer. He'll most likely be losing Isaac Howard, so we'll see. We'll see how he does without a guy like that. Potential Holby Baker winner on his line, and see if he can drive play without Isaac. But it was a good move by him and his agent, and I'm sure the Wild talked to him too before he went to Michigan State and said, "Yeah, this is probably the best for you to get away from Mike Hastings."
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
As far as the other teams in the Ohio regional go, nobody for Boston, nobody from Ohio State, although the best name in the tournament, hands down, Gunnar Wolf Fontaine.
Yeah,
best name in the tournament, hands down.
He's incredible. He transferred from Northeastern, and he was willing. He was trying to will that Ohio State team to win that Big Ten conference tournament. He got it. He tied it up for them, but then Isaac Howard had the heroics thanks to the setup from Charlie, and it was a heck of a hockey game as well.
And nobody from Cornell. For the Wild, but Cornell is
the smart guys got in, one of the last teams into the tournament.
Just don't break my bracket like Yale did.
Yes. What was crazy that they won all those years ago.
So those are the names to keep an eye on, and we will of course keep an eye on their progress as well, their performances, but just so that everybody knows. Like, I'm rooting for all the Wild prospects to do well, but I'm rooting for the Mavericks to win the whole thing.
Yeah, that's both our squads. That's where I went to school. I'll always be a Maverick for life. It was awesome experience this past weekend. Celebrated my birthday down there, and got to drink out of the Mason Cup, and it was just awesome. Yeah, they team brought the cup around downtown Mankato, and it's just so cool to see that hockey team and how much they embrace the Mankato community. I know you live there now, Seth, and have just seen it firsthand how much the hockey team and just the entire the university and the athletics all around, how important it is to them to have that support from the local community, because there's no pro team in that town, so that the Mavericks are the ticket in town if you want to go watch sports. And it was cool to see them win the McNaughton and the Mason Cup, and like they've been saying, when this postseason run started, is they're trying to get all three. So that would be amazing. They've come close past, in the past, in a couple of years ago, and they were in Boston and just came up one period short against Denver there. Denver's just been on a heck of a run this past couple of years, but we'll see. It's going to be super fun. I don't think there's one clear favorite. It seems to be pretty wide open. So looking forward to it starting.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun come next weekend, and hopefully this will be a fun week for the Minnesota Wild as well.
Yes.
Know this, though. We will have you covered every step of the way. So that is our episode for today. Thank you for tuning in, as always, to another new episode of Locked on Wild. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you have not already, so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Pre-game, postcast, we've got you covered as we move to the final push of the regular season. So make sure to stay with us so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We have them for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.